All right, welcome back everyone for another deep dive. I was thinking the other day, like, how often do we really think about the lasting impact of, well, trauma?
Hmm.
Especially in, like, fantastical worlds like, Harry Potter. I mean, we love these stories. We get lost in the magic and adventure.
Right.
But what about the stuff that lingers,
Mm.
the unseen scars? Like, today's deep dive is all about the psychological impact of the Harry Potter universe.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, right. And we're taking a cue from some really interesting academic articles out there.
Oh, cool.
They explore how real-world trauma frameworks, like, the stuff psychologists and therapists use every day,
Hmm.
how those can actually apply to the characters and events we see in the Harry Potter series.
Fascinating.
I know, right? And it's like, when you start thinking about it, it's kind of mind-blowing. Like, okay, imagine, right, you're Harry Potter, you witness your parents' murder as a baby. Talk about trauma. And then you grow up with these, like, awful relatives who mistreat you, and then, boom, you enter this magical world. But it's not all sunshine and butterbeer, right?
Mm.
You face Voldemort, like, every other year.
Yeah, you make a great point. Even with magic, trauma is trauma. It leaves a mark.
Totally. And the thing is, the wizarding world, like, for all its wonders and cool spells and stuff,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of, well, messed up
Yeah.
when you think
Oh,
about it.
yeah. It's full of these traumatic events, like everywhere you look. Wars, death, torture. These aren't just like, oh, one-off things that happen in the background. They're like major events that touch basically everyone.
It's true.
And that got me thinking, when you look closer at the series, you start to see the potential for some deep psychological scars on a lot of the character. I mean, some we love, some we, love to hate, but all of them affected by trauma in some way.
Okay, yeah, let's get into some specifics because, I mean, obviously we've got to start with Harry.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So, okay, we've got this early childhood trauma, right? Like
Right.
losing his parents, and then the Dursleys and Voldemort. It's a lot.
Oh, it's definitely a lot. And, if we're looking at this through a real world lens, you could absolutely see signs of something kind of complex PTSD in Harry.
Complex PTSD.
Yeah, complex PTSD. It goes beyond just like a single traumatic event. It's like, the long-term effect of being exposed to lots of stress and danger over and over, kind of like what Harry goes through.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, complex PTSD. That makes sense.
Yeah, like think about it, right? He's always on edge.
Always looking over his shoulder.
Exactly. That hypervigilance, that can be a classic sign. And then the nightmares, the flashbacks.
Oh, yeah. Like, remember in,
Oh, in Order of the Phoenix, with the dreams about the Department of Mysteries.
right. And it's not just the dreams either. He
Mhm.
struggles to relax. He
Yeah.
pushes people away. It's like this cycle he can't escape.
It's like his past is always right there with him, even when he's trying to move forward.
Totally. And it's like, it makes you realize that even though there's magic and, potions and stuff, trauma doesn't just disappear.
It's so true. And thinking about complex trauma, I mean, Remus Lupin, right?
Yeah.
His whole story is just heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine living with the stigma, being a werewolf in a world that's like terrified of you.
That fear, the constant worry of hurting someone.
And the isolation, right? Always wondering if people will accept you. That kind of chronic stress can do a number on you.
It's, I mean, I can't imagine how hard it would be to even, like, build close relationships.
It's a miracle he finds any kind of happiness, honestly. But it goes to show, resilience and all that.
Absolutely.
But, okay, thinking about trauma and parents, Neville Longbottom, right?
Oh, man, poor Neville.
His parents, they weren't killed, but they were tortured by Voldemort's followers.
Driven insane?
Yeah. Can you imagine witnessing that happening to your own parents? I mean, it's like that kind of trauma, it just shatters your sense of safety. Like, the world is no longer a predictable place, And I think that's what we see with Neville, at least at first. He's timid, he doubts himself.
Oh, totally.
And that could easily stem from that one horrific experience.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, the wizarding world, like, they don't exactly have, therapists on every corner.
No, not at all. It's like the Ministry of Magic. They're all about rules and punishments. But when it comes to actually supporting people who are hurting, they're clueless.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, they're so quick to punish any little thing. But when it comes to the, like, mental and emotional fallout of the stuff they're supposed to be protecting people from, crickets.
It's really a reflection of a lot of the problems we see in the real world, too, like mental health care is underfunded, there's stigma.
Yeah, a lot of people can't even access the help they need.
Exactly. And so when you have a society like the wizarding world where trauma is so widespread, but
Yeah.
support is basically non-existent, well, it's a recipe for disaster.
So, okay, we've talked about some of the bigger examples like Harry, Remus, and Neville.
Mhm.
But if we're looking for, like, signs of trauma in other characters, what else might we see?
Hmm. Well, good question. Sometimes trauma shows up in ways that aren't so obvious. Like some characters might seem emotionally numb, detached.
Oh, right, like they're just going through the motions but not really connecting.
Exactly. And that's often a way of protecting themselves. Like if they don't feel anything, they can't be hurt again.
I guess that makes sense, in a way.
Or they might avoid anything that triggers memories of the trauma, even if those memories are, good ones too. It's like they can't risk opening that door.
Oh, that's so sad. Like, imagine not being able to enjoy the good memories because they're tangled up with the bad ones.
It's a tough situation, and sometimes these coping mechanisms, they can backfire.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, remember how much Harry struggled to learn occlumency, shielding his mind from Voldemort?
Oh, yeah. He was terrible at it.
Right. Well, some fans theorize that maybe it's because deep down, he didn't want to shut out those memories of his parents, even the painful ones.
Wow, that's an interesting thought.
It is, isn't it? It shows us how complex these trauma responses can be. It's not always black and white.
Definitely not.
And sadly, we know that when trauma isn't addressed, it can lead to, well, some pretty unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like, I've heard that, like, substance abuse can be a way of, numbing the pain.
Definitely. And sometimes it's not that direct. It could be recklessness, constantly putting yourself in danger.
That makes me think about,
Harry and Ron.
yeah, like, how many times did those two rush into dangerous situations without thinking?
Countless. It's like they're almost seeking out that adrenaline rush, that sense of control in a world where they've so often felt powerless.
Makes you wonder if it's their way of, like, reclaiming some of that power.
It's definitely possible. And then you think about how some characters deal with loss, like clinging to unhealthy relationships or making risky choices.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like the series, on the surface, it's all about this magical adventure, but underneath.
It's showing us the cost of conflict.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even in a world where wounds can be magically healed.
The psychological scars run much deeper.
It's almost like a warning, a reminder that trauma doesn't just disappear, even with magic.
And acknowledging that, I think it makes the story even more powerful. It doesn't take away from the character's heroism. It adds another layer of depth.
Right. It makes their struggles and their victories even more meaningful.
Exactly. It reminds us that they're human, even with their magical abilities.
So, okay, we've talked about all this stuff, but, like, what does it all mean for us? I mean, we were just talking about a fictional world, right?
Yeah, it's fiction, but fiction has a way of teaching us about real life.
Okay, I see that.
I think by recognizing these signs of trauma in characters we love, it can help us see those same signs in real people.
Oh, I get it. Like, we learn about trauma in a safe space, almost, and
then we can carry that knowledge with us into the real world. We can be more compassionate, more understanding.
yeah, I like that. It's like we're building empathy through these fictional stories.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, it'll help us create a world where trauma is acknowledged and people can get the support they need.
Well, that's a pretty great takeaway, honestly. It's amazing how much depth there is to uncover when we take a closer look at these stories we love. So next time you're reading Harry Potter or any story, really, I challenge you to think about this stuff.
It's like a treasure hunt almost.
Yeah, right. Look for those little signs of trauma. Think about how they might be shaping the characters. It's like it adds a whole new layer of meaning to the story.
And who knows, you might discover something about yourself too.
That's a great point. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the stuff that really makes us think.
See you then.